There is no doubt who the big player was in the 2025 trade and free agency period. St Kilda took the leap, splashed the cash, and used their draft picks to bring in 4 established AFL players. According to the club, it was all by design and followed a carefully curated plan to top up and strike at the perfect moment. They have been applauded for their aggressiveness over this off-season, but fairly enough, their 2026 expectations have risen. Despite the plaudits, there is no sure thing. The potential for a flat year or two is still possible. The club knows this, and in a letter to members, President Andrew Bassett said, "There is no risk-free path to a premiership. The risks we have taken have been considered and deliberate. Doing nothing represents the greatest risk of all in what has become a 2-speed competition." Before we get to the players and trade period as a whole, we need to talk about Ross Lyon. A few weeks ago, Tom Morris reported that the senior coach was filling in for former head of football Dave Mission, who was exiting the club. At the time, it seemed like a temporary move and that an official head of football would be found as soon as possible. However, when Ross Lyon showed up at Marvel Stadium on trade deadline day and even did a press conference on the Saints trade period, it raised eyebrows. Soon after, Morris further reported, "There's every chance Ross Lyon becomes a full-time footy boss, as well as senior coach," reporting directly to the CEO. Carl Delena, the Saints CEO, prefers this structure, with operational department staff looking after the admin responsibilities. It would have to be a first in this AFL era, the dual role of head of football and senior coach. This isn't just Lyon dipping in with his ideas semi-regularly, but he's now essentially in charge of the entire football program, with all things ranging from list management, training, game plan, development and more. He will be busy in 2026, but this reads like an upstairs succession plan. Assistant Corey Enright has been praised numerous times by Lyon publicly. In mid-2025, Morris on Footy Classified said, "St Kilda has unofficially earmarked Enright to succeed Ross Lyon whenever the time comes that Lyon steps away. This likelihood has been discussed among players, football staff, and even noted in conversations from Ross Lyon himself. It wouldn't surprise some inside of Moorabbin if a handover was formalised sometime before the end of the coach's tenure in 2027. The decision to give Lyon the head of football role clearly aligns with this and might be part of the transition to get Enright in as senior coach by 2027 while still keeping Lyon at the club. For 2026, he will have 4 new toys to work with. We already knew about Tom De Koning, who will be under pressure from Day Dot to live up to his bumper contract. Now, he didn't give himself that money, the Saints did, but he still has his part to do. It's hard to judge what that is and who spends more time in the ruck between he and Marshall. Silvani will help Wilkie down back as an experienced body, and if he plays as well as he did in his 13 games in 2025, he will be a great recruit. But let's get to Sam Flanders. It feels like his price tag has flown under the radar. The Saints traded out pick 7 for him. Again, some are saying this is a weak draft, but it's still a valuable top 10 pick that it's hard to come by. The Saints didn't even try to split it and moved down say 6 or 7 spots to get in another pick. I think it's a sign of how aggressive and straightforward the Saints were, but surely they could have been more creative and got more out of that pick 7. Still, Flanders is a talented player who has played numerous roles at the Suns, and now he gets his chance to be that star-on baller. It's a big draft price the Saints paid for him, so there should be as much pressure on him as there is De Koning. And to finish off, Ryan comes in essentially for a 2026 second rounder and adds more depth to the small forward stocks. St Kilda got mature players which they wanted and finally spent some of those dollars that were lying around in the salary cap. But not everything went to plan. The Leclerc situation might have ramifications in the future. When a club commits to a player a long way out and doesn't get the deal done, it's not a great look. Reportedly, St Kilda had been whining and dining Leclerc 2 seasons ago and committed to bring in the GWS defender on a long-term deal on good money. Lyon, post-trade period, tried his best to brush off the abandoned pursuit of him. Nothing's perfect. At the end of the day, he was a GWS player. A deal needed to be done. They certainly weren't throwing him out the door or pushing him out. I'm really thrilled that they saw him as we did, a high caliber player, extending him for 2 years. Sure, he got a contract from GWS, but a year in total would have missed out on millions. He wasn't happy, and neither was his manager Dylan Smith, who launched a huge tirade at the club. Leck is not happy and, to be honest, livid with the situation. Clubs have rung me and said, it's a disgrace. What have they done? Nobody from the Saints has spoken to him. The reality is Jack Silvagni is a free agent coming in, took Aliir's place in that defence, and there really was no point continuing on with the deal for Aliir, which would cost draft capital and decent money. It is a brutal sport, but St Kilda were happy to play the villains in order to get better, although the impact of this failed trade could be significant in further player acquisition. Lyon himself said, "Life's messy, football's messy, trade period is messy." The cutthroat nature of the industry can also be applied to Jack Steele. The now former captain was a heart and soul Saint, leading them through difficult times. He is now a Melbourne player and was moved effectively on as a salary dump for just a 2027 third round pick, getting his money off the books. Steele signed a big 5-year extension at the end of 2021 when he was one of the premier midfielders, winning back-to-back All-Australians and best and fairest. But in the past couple seasons, he has struggled with his body and form. He was ushered out the door and will now try to regain his best at the D's. But despite all the flash of bringing in 4 new players, the reality is St Kilda's growth as a team will not come from the 4 additions. It was something Lee Montagna pointed out on Fox Footy post-trade period. It will still come from the youth that has been drafted and developed over the past couple seasons. It's probably why the Saints are still a bit of a mystery next year. None of the 4 players are guaranteed superstars like Patrick Dangerfield and Jeremy Cameron were to Geelong, or Joe Danaher and Josh Dunkley to Brisbane. Sure, the hope is De Koning will be around the All-Australian ruck mark, and Flanders may be the same, but Silvagni and Ryan especially are nice pieces rather than top 20 players. It's still up to the guys like Matthias Philippou, Marcus Windhager, Mitch Owens, Hugo Garcia, Alex Taru, Hugh Boxall, Nasiah Wanganeen-Millera and the others to be the driving force of this St Kilda team. Their improvement will likely equal that of the Saints in 2026. If they improve a bit, so will St Kilda, but if they can take a big jump up, then the Saints have no reason not to be at least the finals team. I'm sure internally that is what the club will be hoping for. A couple watches early on will be the midfield mix with no Steele. Wanganeen-Millera, Flanders and McRae seem to be the locks, and perhaps a mix of Clay Hall, Owens and Windhager could provide a nice supporting cast. There looks to be a blend of midfielders at the Saints for the first time in a while. There is some speed and skill with Wanganeen-Millera and Flanders, but still some grunt with McRae and Windhager if he transitions more on the ball. And the other watch is that forward line. All eyes are on Max King. The 25-year-old is entering his best years and should be over the knee issues that have seen him miss too much football. A partnership with Cooper Sharman and one of De Koning or Marshall awaits, and that is a solid key forward group depending on King. If he replicates what his brother is doing up on the Gold Coast, then look out. Surely he is due for some good luck. The Saints have played villains in the 2025 trade period and got what they wanted. Sure, there are still unknowns and it wasn't all smooth sailing, but it gives them an opportunity to take a jump in the next few seasons. It's still up to the youth to improve enough, but the top-up pieces look to be good additions with upside themselves. What a year 2026 is for St Kilda, who have been unapologetically themselves in the race to move up the ladder.